Hello, Dumelang, and welcome to our first video here in the wild. So exciting, first video. Hope we get it right. So nervous. Anyways, first video. Hopefully many more to come. So let's begin. Today we are talking about why people that love olives and avocados actually hate life and are in need of serious therapy. I mean, that's true, but I'm not going to discuss that. Let's see. Nope. Oh, yeah, there we go. Career quizzes or career tests. So a friend of mine suggested that one tool that might help young students pick careers are online career tests. Now, what I would need to do is then find a list of reputable career tests and then put them maybe in an article, then put this article on the World Academia website where everybody could have access to them. Link probably in the description. Now, I thought this was a brilliant idea. I thought it was great. So then I went to work on this. I started researching this, and it wasn't that difficult to find. A couple of buttons away, Google, and I was able to find a list of top 10 career quizzes which anybody could take, and they could then find their ideal career. Now, all of this was part of an effort to try to answer the also important question of how do you pick a career essentially as a baby? Because make no mistake about it, despite it being the norm, you being expected to pick a career or know what to do with what you want to do with the rest of your life as a teenager, which is practically a baby, is actually quite unreasonable. But hey, we work with what we have, right? So I was looking into this as a possibility. Now, one of the articles that I was reading, which was also talking about this subject, basically took a jab at these career quizzes and said people should not use them. So obviously then made me ask the also important question of why? What's wrong with these tests? They couldn't possibly be that bad, right? So anyways, this basically brought me back to where I probably should have started in the first place, asking myself the questions such as, what are these career quizzes? How do they work? What exactly are they supposed to do? So this is what we're going to discuss today. And let's break it down. So what exactly are these career quizzes? Now, a lot of you probably have an idea of what these are, and most of you, to be fair, are probably right. But for the sake of an ambiguity, let's try to give them a formal definition. Career assessment is a type of test that asks numerous questions about your likes and dislikes. This information is ultimately used to determine the best type of career or careers that might be suitable for you. It's a simple enough definition, I'd say. Now, these career quizzes tend to focus on different aspects of you. Some tend to focus predominantly on your personality. They try to find out what kind of personality you have and then pick a career based on that. Some focus on aptitude. So the natural skills that you might have, and then pick careers for you based on that. All in all, generally, they tend to focus on your interests, your personality, your aptitude skills, your values, your strengths, and so on and so forth. I think you get the picture, right? So what are these career tests meant to do? Well, the most obvious part of it is they're meant to help narrow down a list of careers in what would otherwise be a sea of possibilities, right? Another thing that they do is they help you understand yourself better. Know what drives you, know who you are. And trust me, that's a very important thing in trying to navigate this chaotic life. Okay, so now we're going to break these assessments into two types. We have the personality tests and the aptitude tests. Now, the personality tests tend to focus more on, they're more psychologically based, if I may put it that way. They focus more on who you are. So you are asked a series of questions, and after you're done, they basically kind of give you a sense of who you are, what characters you have predominantly. So are you an introvert, for example, versus an extrovert? Are you a more logical thinker, or are you an emotional person? You get the picture, right? Now, one of the most popular tests out there in this category is the Myers-Briggs test. I'm sure some of you may have heard about it. Now, with this test puts you in one of 16 types of personalities, based on whether you are an INTJ, like whether you're an introvert, extrovert, whether you're a technical person, whether you're a judging person, a perceptive person, or a sensing person, and so on and so forth. It's quite a lot. Now, the reason I use the word predominant is because I think it's also important to understand that you are not one thing or another. Just because a test says you are an introvert doesn't necessarily mean that there is no extrovert in there. It just says that predominantly, given the answers that you gave to the quiz, you are just predominantly this thing versus this thing. All I'm trying to say is human beings are complex creatures, and it's not just this or that. So do not put yourself in a box and limit yourself just because a test essentially said you are this versus that. Savvy? I remember I took one of these tests, and quite a number of times actually. And I remember it consistently coming out INTJ, which basically means that I should be a comic book scientist villain trying to take over the world. So there is that. The second test that we have is the aptitude test. The aptitude tests focus more on trying to figure out what skills you have naturally, then pick careers based on those skills. Now, I don't know if high schools gave these tests, but I do remember that in university they do have them. I know this because very many moons ago, when I was having a crisis of career, I took one of these. And I remember it telling me that I should study things like law and economics and so on and so forth. And I remember also it specifically saying I should not study anything to do with mechanics. Guess what I ended up studying? I took a couple of these tests just to see what they're all about and how they work. And I thought it would be fun to share some of my results with you. So let's do that. Okay, so I took a number of these tests just to see for myself how they work. And let me see, some of my results are here. A very popular one is the 123 career test, which is based on something called the Holland Code. So what this Holland Code does apparently is it classifies career jobs into 6 career personalities. These are realistic, investigative, social, enterprising, conventional, artistic. So yeah, this 123 test, basically the way that it works is you have 30 questions. Yeah, about 30 questions. For each question you get about 4 pictures. You select the job that you would like versus one that you would hate, and after the thing you get a code. You get a 3-letter code based on these realistic, investigative, social, enterprising, blah 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 blah. So then from there you get also the career possibilities. So I took this test and I came out in IRS, which means I'm realistic, investigative, and I'm social. Hey, I'm a social butterfly. And based on that, it told me that I could be an environmental engineer, a chemical technician, quite a lot of options, I gotta say, which I don't like about that, because if you are trying to figure out what it is that you want to study and then something gives you 40 possibilities, you probably came to this thing with about 5 or 6 possibilities, and then it gives you probably those possibilities and then a bit more. And that's just, it's a bit too much. But hey, I do see mechanical engineering in here, which is something that I studied. So Yeah, I guess it's better than nothing. I did take another one, which said I'm an RIC, I mean IRC, um, which also suggested that I do some technical stuff, computer related, mechanical, and so on, which makes sense because I've actually been dabbling with a lot of computer stuff recently as well, and the mechanical stuff. So I guess that also helped. I guess that would also help if I were trying to figure out what to do with my life. There was another one which also, it said it uses the Holland code, but for some reason it doesn't use this whole realistic, investigative, social, blah blah. I don't know why. It's it puts you under thinking, creative, building, helping, persuading, and organizing. Um, and it has some color codes. It was very confusing for me. Um, but anyways, it gave me a pool of possibilities as well. Told me I could be an aerospace engineer, an architect, industrial engineer, um, theologian, physicist, mathematician. It's a crap load. Again, I don't understand why they have so many possibilities. I don't think it helps that there are so many possibilities. They just throw everything at you, you know. Um, the one that was really long that I took was this one I got from psychtest.com. It's a personality and aptitude test. So it takes both your personality and aptitude into consideration. It was like 240 questions that I had to go through, and this one you actually have to pay for the results. But even even if you don't pay, they give you a summary. The summary just basically tells you this is what you can study. And it told me that I could study robotics. I could be a robotics engineer. And yeah, it gave me just one career though. I know I was complaining about those ones being too many careers, but this one is, come on, one. But I guess I would have, maybe if I paid for the full report, I might get more possibilities. I don't know. And this is the thing that I should also highlight about some of these tests. Some of them are free, but some of them are not. Those ones that are not free tend to give you a summary anyways. If they allow you to take the test, they give you a summary. From the summary, you can just get a sense of maybe what you want to study. So maybe they'll say, these are your traits and this is what you can study. I don't know what the detailed report would look like because I'm a bit broke, so I'm not about to spend dollars on that, but you get the picture. I think you get the picture. So I will have all these quizzes in the description, probably. So you can take them for yourself and find out how they work for you. I do have to say that some of the questions are quite speculative. Rather, I would say they're quite subjective. You know, I remember there was one question that asked me, what did it say? I think I highlighted here somewhere here. They said your ability in making, like, what can you rate your ability in making judgment calls, sensible judgment calls? I don't know. I mean, the possibilities were from I excel at this to I'm terrible at this and everything else in between. I don't know. You know, it's subjective. I might think I'm great at it, but other people might think I suck at it. You know, it's like if a doctor says from 1 to 10, what's your pain, like rate your pain. You could say 5 and his 5, your 5 could be his 7. So, you know, those kinds of questions can be quite confusing. And there were also some other questions where honestly you just kind of have to, I don't know, just assume. Like for example, there was a question that says, how good are you? Are you good at interior design? How am I supposed to know whether I'm good at interior design or not? I mean, but I guess they were meant for a certain for a specific demographic rather, because I mean, a lot of these a lot of these quizzes from first world countries. So this is probably where you would find people who know whether they're good at playing piano or whether they're good at interior decorating and so on and so forth. So yeah, but this is not to say that these kinds of quizzes are not helpful, because at the end of the day, we're all people, right? And yeah, I'm pretty sure that you could still get some useful information from them. So yeah, don't be too quick to dismiss them. But it did get me thinking, though, about whether there are certain quizzes that are specific to the country, like that are specific to Africa, rather. So went online and African, I don't know how to type, career quizzes. And boom, let's see. The first hit is this website called careerwise.co.za. And let's see. Okay, it seems to utilize that 1, 2, 3 career quiz thing. Remember the one that has quite pictures and everything. So they seem to use that. So let's get out of that one and try this one, which is careersportal.co.za. It still gives me the same thing, the 1, 2, 3 test. So I don't know what this means. I don't know whether it means that Africans don't have these, or they're just not available online, or they can use them and they, and expect a certain level of accuracy. I don't know. Although I would think that there are certain questions that would definitely need to be specifically catered for our demographic. But anyways, you can also help me find these things, and you can post the links in the comment section. And yeah, and I'll also keep looking for them. I'll try to find some, if there are any that are available online. And yeah. Okay, there were some issues that I did personally find about these tests. For one, some of them just give you too many possibilities, and it doesn't really help, because if you come to these tests perhaps with, I don't know, 4 or 5 possibilities, and then they give you 40 more possibilities, it just serves to confuse you even more, right? So I don't know, I think that just bothers me. That really bothers me. And some of the questions feel quite narrow. So for example, the ones that I was telling you, that there was a test that I took, I forget which one, that utilizes this Holland code, that asked me something about whether I would want to, like I would enjoy selling stuff, like I would enjoy selling a product or something like that. And I think it was trying to suss out whether I'm an entrepreneurial person or not, and I said no, and based on that, I think it said I'm not an entrepreneurial person, and I don't quite agree with that. I think the questions were just, I don't know, it just felt like they weren't quite clear. They didn't ask the right questions, if you will, And another thing is, and this brings me to the reason why I studied the mechanical stuff despite an aptitude test saying I shouldn't. They don't try to find out what your passions are, what drives you, what are your motivations, what's your background, because all these things are very important in you deciding what it is that you want to study. So for example, even though the aptitude test said to me I shouldn't study one thing, I had ambitions, I had drives, I had, those things which could only be achieved by me studying this very specific thing, So they don't get enough information. They don't get all the information that you might need, that might be necessary in order to decide what it is that you want to study. I think this is a very, very important part of what drives people. This is a very important part of what would drive you even. So this is something to take into consideration, that when you take these tests, do not just rely on them. there's a lot of other factors that they don't take into account that you should take into account. We're going to try to help you find out what these other factors are so that you can take everything into account. But these tests, I think they have those limitations. So all in all, I would say that they're not as bad as the article that I read, but at the same time, do not take a test and then think you know what it is that you should study. There's a lot of things to take into account: your background, your family. You need to take into account what your passion is, what is your calling. Know yourself, understand all of these things before deciding what it is that you want to do with the rest of your life, and understand that it is important for you to understand that this may not necessarily happen as quickly as you would like. There are some people who already know what they want to do, like from the beginning. I have a friend of mine, 17-year-old, he already knew he wanted to be a doctor, and he's a doctor now. But some people just don't know. A lot of people really don't know. So be patient with yourself, and yeah, I hope this was helpful, and I'm gonna go now.